ain't say that you had beef with blue cheese?
This is Beef with Blue Cheese, the podcast.
One and only.
I would hope. Could you imagine there was another? We didn't check to see if there was a Beef with Blue Cheese podcast already on iTunes.
I would not be surprised if there's another, but I think we're safe.
Yeah. So basically, what is it? It's us talking about albums that we grew up with, that we shaped our musical taste, our interest in music, right?
Yeah, our young lives.
Our young lives,
as grown boys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Music was very important to us, and I'm going back to the days where I always remember going back to just being excited for records to be released, or albums, CDs at the time.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much that exists anymore. Even for me, like I'll get excited about an album coming out, and it's not the same anymore. You don't sit
No,
down.
I mean, it was it was almost like a Tuesday ritual. Tuesday, was was the day that every album.
And once you had that, you saved up to buy them. It became so precious.
Yeah.
Now that it's so music is so accessible, and
pretty much
you can throw it away if you're like, if you don't love the album first time through, you can pick out the songs you want. Yeah. But there was something to putting on that CD and be like, all right, I bought the CD. I'm going to listen to it for the next week, no matter what happens.
Yeah. I mean, we were chatting earlier, but just like when you got that single, you bought that single on cassette, and it was 2 songs, and you throw that in the Walkman, and that was the next month of your life. Yeah. I mean, you wore it out, you got a couple of them, and that's it.
Yeah. You'd wear those out extra quick because, 2 songs are just on repeat.
Yeah. But I mean, every lyric to every track, and I don't think that exists anymore. A lot of these,
or at least, or at least your version of the lyrics to every track.
Very true.
You wouldn't always know the actual lyrics, but you would, come up with your own, and then 10 years later, figure out, wait, that's what those lyrics were the whole time.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes way more sense than what I was saying. Yeah.
It's almost a little disappointing.
So I'm sure
I've been singing this shit wrong for 20 years.
Yeah, I'm sure during this podcast we're going to expose a lot of wrong lyrics. I think that'll be a fun thing that's going to come up a lot, is wrong lyrics that happen.
Without a doubt.
In there, and I think it'll be fun. Like we mentioned it. So the truth of the matter is, we recorded an episode already, and then we recorded episode for Method Man's to Cal. And we thought that was a proper thing, so that will come out next or whatever. And in that, we discussed a little bit about what this is going to be, but we thought we should give it some time to make an actual introduction to who we are, why we're doing this, and if anybody approach it as if people are actually going to listen. Yeah, because I don't know.
Under the assumption that maybe somehow someone will click on it, and maybe somebody else, and
might not be down the line. Maybe somebody in 10 years, maybe somebody will dig this up and they'll be like, "Oh, this is interesting. I've done that with podcasts, where you listen to a podcast that doesn't even exist anymore."
Yeah.
Because I also thought about. So I made a list of all the albums that we can discuss that kind of I remember from our childhood, my childhood, and some of them I don't know if you were into as much as I was into, and I'm sure that you have albums and I think that we should pull those up and like kind of even use this time to expose each other to be like, oh yeah, I listen to this album a lot. I don't know if you listen to this album a lot, because I put some on there, and it's a good amount of. But it's not endless. It's
no. I mean, it's going to stop at some point.
At some point, we're not. But then we can pivot and then pick out new albums or albums that. Because I was also scrolling through, being like, "Oh, this was an album that came out around that time that I never really got into," and maybe then we can use that time to explore maybe even an album that we weren't that familiar with.
Yeah, I mean, and then there'll be a time where we just go through and spend maybe a couple months on Atmosphere and Slug. And,
yeah.
I mean, it's going to be a couple months where we're kind of going through his whole catalog.
Yeah, we'll pick out our favorites. I mean, I considered at one point when I was listening to Cal for the first episode, I was like, I could actually do a podcast on every one of these songs.
Yeah.
Like it would be short. It would be, but we don't want
20
these to be
minutes,
long.
25 minutes.
Yeah,
on every
25
song,
minutes on
the
a
ones
song.
That, I mean, as a 12-year-old, 13-year-old kid, you're hearing this stuff for the first time, and you're like, wow, this is like somebody's life, and
completely different than yours.
You can really get into what that song meant to us, meant to them, and kind of how that put him on the scene.
I think that might be a lot to go into, being like, oh, we have to treat every song with, but
yeah,
I think what we should do is allow ourselves to be like part 1 and part 2 of an album. Because, I would really like to keep them to a half hour, 40 minutes, I think is ideal. Because that's what I like to listen to, a podcast in and out.
Yeah.
And if an album is really good that we end up talking about it, we'll end it then and we'll say, we'll pick this up. We'll start and release a part 2 of that album.
Yeah, I mean, keep it to a car ride. I mean, a car ride, like a half hour, 40 minutes.
It depends on, obviously your commute.
For most people.
Yeah. A lot of them, that could be a there and back. Could be one episode, hopefully. Hey, listen, if your commute is 15 minutes, God bless you. That's congratulations. You're winning at life. And then some of the albums we're not gonna re-listen and like them all. Like some of them we're gonna listen to and be like, this is terrible. Like, well,
yeah. I mean, as I was talking about that earlier, was that Busta Rhymes album. I listened to it again today. I'm like, man, this isn't that great. I don't know how I was into a lot of these songs.
Couple of great songs in it, but I know we should talk, like at the time we listened to it, so we should, I want to listen to it and discuss.
I wore that thing out. I mean, I can remember listening, mowing to my uncle's lawn, listening to that,
thinking it was the best thing,
CD top to bottom, the entire thing.
Yeah.
And now I think Busta Rhymes is a joke. Like he's a caricature. I don't know. It's very strange.
Yeah, and we're recording this in 2021, and he just put out a new album, and I heard everybody talking about how good it was, and I was like, oh, great, maybe this guy's he's back.
Yeah.
And I tried listening to it. I'm like, what was everybody talking about? Yeah. Listen, not for me. I'm 40. I'm past the age of acting like your music is garbage. My music was better. Yes, I feel that way, but I'm not. I'm no longer. I used to be on message boards when they were a thing and arguing who I thought the best rapper was. And I'm like, listen, if you want to like what you want to like, more power to you. I don't see the value in it, and I can't give it much time. So I feel like I've learned what I like, and I just want to. I wait for the next A$AP Rock album to come out.
Yeah,
and then that's what I'm in.
Yeah, I find myself being very unadaptable into new stuff. Yeah. I mean, there's some stuff that I could probably get into, but I mean, if I haven't liked it for a while or liked the artist for a while, and even some of those artists that I liked, I mean, we don't like some of the new stuff, but I mean, I'm still going to listen to it, and I'm still going to listen to every single one of the old records, but.
Yeah, that's what's great about when you have those artists that have those albums that they're still there. Like that's the great thing, and like it's just you can still. I still revisiting these albums. I still have so many of the same feelings listening to it. It brings me right back.
Writers never die.
Writers never die. Yeah, so that's what it's going to be. It's going to be a lot of rap music.
It's going to be overdone. Music. It's going to be a lot. Hopefully the audience.
The two most qualified people to talk about rap music in the early '90s, right here. Ryan Brook and Matthew Salzer.
I would say there was probably a point in time where I felt as though I was an aficionado, and
I was,
and I would be very disappointed. Like if someone didn't listen to what I listened to, or I'd be like, oh yeah, have you heard this J. Rue the Damager track? And they said no. I was like, okay, well obviously you don't know rap music, and I'm very disappointed, and we're probably not gonna be friends.
I used J. Rue the Damager one night for credibility on a comedy show I was doing. I was in Brooklyn. It was an all black show, and I love it. I love doing all black shows. It's just which seems like why, but I remember talking about it. I dropped J. Rue the Damager reference, and half of the crowd was like, "Oh my God, why can't talking about J. Rue the Damager?"
And you're like, "Yes,
I talked about being in Brooklyn and being like driving. I was like, I was driving, like, "Oh my God, this is Brooklyn." I'm like, this is what J. Rue the Damager. This is what they rap about. I'm like, and then I said, "So is that J. Rue the Damager?"
Yeah.
And then they were like, So definitely his first two albums will get discussed. Maybe the third, because I loved it at the time.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah,
I listened to it maybe about a year ago, and it still holds up. And most of the songs do.
It's weird.
You can't find it anywhere. That's the one thing. Unless you got it downloaded, you're not going to find it anywhere. That's a problem.
Yeah, he pulled a lot of his stuff. So it's I'm looking forward to it. it's gonna be good.
I mean, it's just gonna be fun to turn back the hands of time
and like we
maybe
discussed,
listen to stuff we haven't listened to for a while and kind of talk about. I mean, you can just points in time of your life when you're a kid growing up, and you just remember things that you might not have remembered when we put the album back on.
Yeah, and we can talk about that. It'll be personal, like we talked about briefly in the Cal episode, which had issues. We didn't record video, so if you are listening to this, and you see that, there will be no video with that episode. No. But I think video's a fun part of podcasts nowadays. But we mentioned briefly that we are aware of the top 500 podcasts with Josh Adam Myers, where he talks about Rolling Stone podcast, and we don't care. So we're going to be talking about different albums that they're not talking about, and they're personal to us. And I'm excited. I'm also anxious to listen to some of the albums and realize they're not as good as they were. I
have a feeling that's going to be coming. One of the ones that
because even I made a podcast where I just took every album that I could come across and I dragged it into one playlist, and I was listening to it today on shuffle, just having random songs came up, and so many of the songs that came up were not good. I'm like there's a majority of these songs that aren't good that I would not I want to skip, but I feel like I wanted to give it the time. So
I mean, a couple episodes might just be about a couple songs on an album. It might not be the whole thing.
Well, we should. I mean, we can talk about a song that's bad. Like I can talk about a song that's bad just as long as I can talk about a song that's good. So it's like that's not a matter of the conversation. It's if sometimes there's terrible, goofy lyrics in a song, and it's I'm down to talk about that. More. Really, that's a funnier conversation. I hope it to be somewhat amusing and funny. These conversations. I also thought about comedy albums. Should we do a couple comedy albums? I
mean, we discussed Dave Attell at one point. I don't know if it was on one of the
recordings
that we originally.
So I thought about. I had Brian Regan live, Dave Attell, Ted Alexandro, which essentially was just Comedy Central, but they put it on CD. But I listened to that, and I watched that special. So.
And I mean, if you want to talk about one of the ones that doesn't hold up, we could talk about how big fans of Dane Cook we were, and I mean, that was a big point in time.
I'm eating on Mike. First episode, I'm eating on Mike, which people hate, and I hate. I'm doing it, but I just made this chicken. I need to taste if it was good or not.
No, you can't just let the fried food sit like that. You got to make sure you take.
You need to know if my deep fryer worked.
Yeah,
I was panicking that it was getting cold.
I think the audience will understand.
You talk.
So I mean, you have Dane Cook album. Yeah, go ahead.
I think that album holds up. I don't think it's that bad.
Yeah.
I think later he got.
It's just what he became. Yeah, but I mean, we were pretty big fanboys of him.
Yeah.
For a while, and
I thought you were going to say Jeff Foxworthy. Because we loved that redneck.
We sure
album.
did. Oh man, that just gives me douche chills.
We were very young. I mean, we were young, but we were so young at the time that it's almost embarrassing to him that two kids would like your comedy so much. Like if you're a comedian and the kids that young love your comedy. I mean, I shouldn't say because kids love Brian Regan, and he today is still one of my favorite comics. So that is what it is. But I mean, what do we know? We thought that was hilarious. The redneck stuff was hilarious to us.
And some of it was.
Yeah. I would be interested going back and listening to that.
I want to listen to it. I want to listen to it live while we're doing it without listening to it beforehand.
Yeah. Just like check in
just
on
the instant reaction. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That was the If You Might Be a Redneck album, right? Like I think that was where it all started. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's great. Let me move this. There we go. My monitor was in shot. How long is this now? Is this, let's see. This is okay. Yeah, I'm good. So, why would people want to listen to us? Why would they want to listen to us over anybody else? Like what would give somebody the
I gotta be honest. I don't know.
I mean, I mean, I listen to podcasts sometimes. You stumble across people, and then the next thing you know, that's somebody listening to it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be the fact that, I mean, we actually kind of know what we're talking about to a degree.
Yeah.
And
also
pretty good sense of history when it comes to most of the stuff that we're going to be talking about. And I mean,
I would like to do. I'm sorry, I keep cutting off. Well, we have to get better. Me not cutting off as much as I do, but I'm a blabbermouth. I would like to do a little bit of research on the albums before, like learn a little bit of stuff that maybe we didn't realize before. Just a quick Wikipedia on it, find out who produced, some of the tracks, and come to it with some knowledge.
Yeah, I was all ready to go for tonight. For It Was Written.
It Was Written. I listened to it.
I was ready to roll. I did my research. I did.
Yeah.
I found out all my backstories.
Yeah. So that's
I listened to the album. I'm like, wow. I said, this is as good as I remember it being.
Yeah.
From almost top to bottom.
Yeah. There's some, I really listened to it. Definitely
There's
some weak throwaways. There's some throwaways. There's some weak points, but
what's interesting though is that listening to that again, and we're going to ruin the second episode, and that's my fault, and I take responsibility for that. But you can tell who produced every track, like between track masters, between DJ Premier, and between Havoc.
Yeah.
Like
and then there's a Dre, and there's one Dre song in it. It's like on very obvious, very.
And I'm like,
Dre song.
and skip.
But
I mean, as soon as the hi-hat hits, it's like, oh yeah, Havoc produced this one. It's like,
which is one that I think Mobb Deep is on that one too, right?
He produced two of them, and one of them's they both start exactly the same. I mean, the hi-hat and then the snare and then the bass, and it's the same drum track.
Yeah, which is great, a classic. I can't, I will never get tired of boom bap rap. And
no, not at all.
To me, doesn't get any better. It's so simple. You could just, some beats you could just continue rapping over, and I would just never get tired of it.
Well, I mean, it's just the essence of New York hip hop. I mean, that's what it manifested into, was that. I mean, you knew when you turned that on that, okay, I know where this is made. I mean, there's a region of where this came from, and the guys that are rapping over on top of it, and I mean,
will also, is. There will be a lot of mostly New York rap music is essentially, like, I went through like probably Snoop Dogg, Doggy Style. Like, I would like to talk about that album. Dr. Dre Chronicle, I listened to here and there, but I was never a huge fan, but I think I would like to cover it just because there was like a few songs on that album that were, the hit songs that I liked a lot, but I never got into that album completely. But
and Ice Cube,
towards the end,
he had a couple.
a couple Ice Cube records. Yeah, absolutely.
And we were in on
definitely mostly. Yeah, absolutely. But definitely a lot of New York boom bap rap is what this is going to be, which
I'm excited about. And you should be excited about. Everybody should be excited.
The listener. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and if you haven't heard it before, you're about to hear some stuff that was made in the 90s, early 2000s that it was unfortunate that you didn't know about at the time, but hopefully you're going to know soon enough. And thankfully for iTunes, you can pull it up whenever you want.
Yeah. For essentially free. Music is free now, $10 a month. $10 a month for Apple Music is the easiest $10 a month I spent.
Yeah.
A lot of people say Netflix is. I don't watch a lot of Netflix. I have it, and but I end up playing Apple Music more than Netflix.
I mean, it's on my waking hours. It's on 90% of the time.
Yeah. Even kid, like, you have kids, like you have kids. I don't have kids, like, but you kids want to listen to something. Yeah, pull it up. Soundtracks, it's beautiful. I used to spend hundreds of dollars a month probably on music. So to say
the amount of money and CD, and what were they? Sam Ash music clubs? No, what was it?
No, Columbia Records.
Columbia.
And there was another one. There was another one too. That was like Columbia. I don't remember what it was.
You had to buy like, you got 15 for a nickel, and then they like bled you. I think I still owe them money.
No, I exhausted. I did pretty well. Options. I did pretty well with maneuvering that, where I was pretty careful with that. I'll buy the occasional records. Like, I have some records behind me. I'll buy the occasional record, but I don't even play them. I buy them just to put them on the wall or put them in a cabinet, and I don't have a record player that would even sound good on playing them. Or an environment.
I know Slug mentioned it in the song that kind of changed my life in the year 2000.
What is
on Scapegoat?
A Scapegoat.
Yeah.
That's here's the thing about some of those, like, some things I want to cover weren't on albums; they were singles.
Yeah,
so I think we should do like we're gonna.
Yeah, you have that. There's gonna have to be like
some
other.
some A$AP Rock,
some
apathy stuff, like Apathy's early stuff.
Yeah.
He did compilations, but he did like 2 disc compilations. A lot of it was no good. So it's
his
like,
first album was like 37 songs.
Yeah, it was called It's the Bootleg Motherfucker.
Yeah,
it's like it's like I'm not upgraded by the host is now including unlimited minutes. Okay,
look at that.
All right. Yeah, so
and a lot of the underground stuff that we listen to, some of the battle rap, we can do a couple
that'll
episodes
have to be
on
like
that because that was
a singles a singles episode where we just go through and talk about, which is that we could actually probably get a few episodes out of just those one hit underground, not even wonders.
I mean, trying to find every single Sway and King Tech freestyle episode, which was hard back in the late 90s.
That's good. But what I was going to say earlier is that we'll try to be knowledgeable on this stuff, but also not act like we were cooler than we were at the time, or not act like we were, it's got to be completely honest with like, we were late to a lot of stuff. We didn't know, it doesn't matter. Like, as long, and some stuff that was classic, I never got into, and some I love stuff that was not good. So I'm not interested in painting myself as like, the coolest 16-year-old kid in the world. I was not. And I just I knew what I liked. I knew what I liked, and I loved it. And I want to celebrate that version of me. And
it's going to be fun to take a nice trip back through time and discuss a lot of that stuff.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I'm excited to hear and see how this comes out. If there's a delay, because it looks like from my thing, there's like a delay on my audio and video. So I'm wondering if that's how it's going to come
on
through.
The recording that I got here. You look pretty much spot on. I don't know about me, but
is it?
Your audio on Zoom, and from what I can tell, is
the video audio. All right. Well, you can send me the audio, and we'll see whether or not it's fit for broadcast. And we will be back with a videoless version of Tikal.
Yep, I think we'll drop them every Tuesday, Wednesday, something like that.
Right now we're gonna backlog some, so we know we can. If we have to miss a week, we can. We have some to whatever, and then it'll be. It was written, and then I sense an Atmosphere or A$AP Rock album coming shortly after that.
It's gonna have to. I mean, there's just no way around it. I don't know if we need to do Overcast. I mean, if it was an A$AP record, we do Labor Days. I mean,
Labor Days, something that was.
I mean, that was kind of when A$AP Rock took it over for me.
Labor Days, and I think that if it was Atmosphere, I mean, God Loves Ugly was like really like we heard some of the Overcast stuff first, but I think Lucy Ford. I'm sorry,
because we heard some Sad Calm Bad Dub after Overcast, so we heard the one song.
Yeah, but it was really. The whole first full album that we got into was Lucy Ford. Yeah.
And we're like, what is this? Like he was someone that's completely different from everybody else, and it's gonna be exciting to talk about that.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited about that stuff, and those are gonna be a lot of episodes. Them would be 3-part episodes or some of those.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be song 3, and it's gonna be we're gonna be an hour and 15 minutes into it. So
we're gonna say that next thing cut 2 of that episode. We're gonna be like, all right, what else? What else about this album? Like, it was good. This song was good. This is my Brian Regan impression coming through. It was good. All right, I didn't even need the iPad to play any music. And
today.
Gonna work on an intro.
We'll get some of the kinks ironed out, and for episode, I guess this will be one, and then
this will be
episode
one. And then,
one will actually be number 2. So
then we'll correct it from there. All right. Well, I think I'm happy with my setup, and we can start rolling. All right.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us on Beef with Blue Cheese.
Episode 1.
By the way, we should talk about the name.
We can talk about the name, a little bit of backstory.
It's so Helter Skelter, which was one of our favorite hip hop groups coming up. Talk about boom bap. Doesn't get any more boom bap than that to me. Actually, that's not true. Mobb Deep to me is the most
number
boom bap ish type stuff. Because they were a little more grimy, but still a heavy snare, heavy,
And I mean, you could turn on any song, no matter where you just start the album randomly. You have no clue what song's coming on because it all starts the same way.
Yeah. So there's a skit in Helter Skelter's second album, Nocturnal, which wasn't even their most notable album. No. I mean, we loved it.
It was actually in Magnum Force.
Magnum Force, yeah. What did I say? Nocturnal. Nocturnal was the first, and Magnum Force was the second.
It was the second, and it was called Two Keys.
Two Keys, and they talked about
Sean Price had I guess he had something to do, and Rock was upstairs with one of his bitches. And, his quote, not mine. And,
right, his words.
And I mean, it was just a misunderstanding.
He said he got beat for two keys. And he thought he said he had beef with blue cheese. And just something that we liked growing up. We thought beef with blue cheese was hilarious. Funny. And I like naming things obscurely. This was your idea. We talked about what albums we talk about. Magnum Force was one of the first albums that came to mind. And I mentioned that, and you said we should call the thing beef with blue cheese. I said I love it.
That's
I don't
think
there's any reason to think about it any longer. Because names are completely arbitrary. It's going to set us, we know there won't be another version of it, like we said earlier, hopefully.
And if someone does have it, we just call it Your Rhymes Petite Mine Shop at Lane Bryant. And definitely
talk about obscure. Nobody,
no one will have any clue. Yeah, that was something that was referenced on a daily basis for a good decade.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that'll get us into the freestyle battle rap / compilation albums part of the podcast.
Rhymes Petite, Mine Shop.
I don't even know who that was. I don't know if that was Rise.
I think it was Rise. Yeah. Rise.
It was
on one of the Rise songs, but it might have been like Gaston or whatever. But
could have been somebody.
Yeah,
I think it was Rise.
I think it was Rise. Yeah.
I'm gonna be very proud of myself when it is, and I remember that.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
that's it. Beef with blue cheese.
We hit all right. Beef with blue cheese.
Sign off for episode 1.
Okay. Thank you so much for joining. Goodbye.
You a tough ass geezer. Give you props for that.